Glad to welcome everyone, and today we will talk about thyroid problems. What hidden symptoms indicate that there is a serious thyroid dysfunction? Why does this situation occur in the first place, and what should you do about it? Watch this video until the end to learn about the real causes of thyroid dysfunction and the most effective ways to address them. So the thyroid gland is an organ located in our body, right here, basically on the neck. It has a right lobe, a left lobe, and an isthmus. Why is the thyroid gland so important for us? This tiny organ controls all the metabolic processes in our body, or more precisely, the speed of these metabolic processes. So for example, if we need to speed up, to think faster, to move faster, the thyroid gland releases more of the hormone thyroxine and our reactions become quicker. If we need to slow down, the amount of thyroxine decreases and all the metabolic processes in our body slow down as well. Blood pressure drops, we become sluggish, drowsy, and move slowly. Many doctors talk about the hidden signs of thyroid diseases. For example, this could be increased brittleness of hair or nails, or for instance, elevated cholesterol, or decreased libido, or changes in blood pressure, or for example, diarrhea or constipation. That is, some symptom is always mentioned, and the person thinks, I'll go check my thyroid, gets it checked, and there turn out to be hormonal changes. And the person thinks, the doctor was right. What a secret piece of information that was. Unfortunately, this information is not secret at all. Why? Because doctors are very often mistaken. So let's break down what mistakes doctors actually make so that you don't fall into this trap yourself. Let's start with the first one. When the thyroid gland increases its function. What does increased function mean? It means the amount of its hormones increases, such as T3, T4, and TSH. If the amount of hormones increases, then naturally the speed of metabolic processes in our body also intensifies. What are the manifestations of this? This is also called hyperthyroidism. It means an increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, and our metabolism speeds up. We start losing weight, we begin to slim down, we become agitated, we get nervous, we're always rushing somewhere, we're in a hurry, and we experience diarrhea. Not constipation, but specifically diarrhea. In other words, the activity of our body increases and every cell starts working faster and faster. When the thyroid decreases its function, or what is called hypothyroidism, everything will be exactly the opposite. We start to slow down in our daily activities. Our blood pressure gradually drops over time. We constantly feel extremely sleepy and fatigued throughout the day. We begin to speak more slowly and with less energy. We get tired and exhausted very quickly. We keep gaining more and more weight and can't seem to do anything about it no matter how hard we try. We get constipated and have trouble with regular bowel movements. And we start to forget things, even important details, more and more often as time goes on. I'm deliberately demonstrating this right now. These are the real symptoms, meaning that everything related to metabolism is decreasing. And of course, every organ that lowers its metabolism will show symptoms. That's why it's incorrect to talk about hidden symptoms of thyroid disease. This is a trick, it's a mistake that you fall for. You need to clearly understand, if the parameters have increased, then the thyroid function has increased. If the parameters of any metabolic processes have decreased, then the thyroid function has also decreased. It has also decreased. Well, there's a third situation when they say that the hormones are normal, but other problems arise, for example, a lump in the throat or high antibodies, and they diagnose autoimmune thyroiditis. So what kind of beast is this? What is it like? How can this be? The thyroid hormones are normal, but I have these kinds of problems. What is this related to? Or this is also called inflammation of the thyroid gland. So let's talk about the causes now. Changes in thyroid function. I think you've already heard about this, if our diet lacks selenium and iodine, then our thyroid reduces its function. Because iodine is essential for the synthesis of thyroid hormones and selenium is necessary for its absorption. And you keep hearing this all the time, but I probably want to warn you. Because in our modern conditions, it's impossible to develop a deficiency of selenium or iodine. We consume foods every day that contain enough selenium and iodine. And we'll talk a bit more about this later. And of course, to enhance its function. The thyroid can't develop, for example, hyperthyroidism just because you ate a lot of iodine or selenium. That's impossible. You can't eat 1,000,000 times more selenium. That won't make your thyroid function more actively. Because, and this is important, it's not the thyroid that decides to increase or decrease its function. It's the brain that makes that decision. And this is where the uniqueness lies. It's that there are centers in the brain that control the thyroid gland. And if this center is activated, it leads to the thyroid either increasing its function with all the effects we've discussed above, or decreasing its function, resulting in what is known as hypothyroidism. So, what needs to happen in a person's life in order for the thyroid gland's function to increase? And here I want you to even conduct a simple experiment. First, you need to determine whether you are right-handed or left-handed. This is done very simply. Imagine you are holding a small child in your arms, and if the child's head is resting on your left arm, you are right-handed. If the child's head is on your right arm, you are left-handed. Why is this necessary? We need this to determine which hemisphere is dominant for us. And so, if we are right-handed, and we want to achieve something very quickly, for example, to get a very good grade at school, because our parents say we need to study well to get into university quickly, because there isn't much time left, I need to marry this guy quickly, because I'm already 17 and still not married. All my friends already have 2 kids each. I need to build a career. And here I am, left alone. I was growing together with my husband, and now I have 3 kids left with me. He, the bastard, went to another woman. So basically, I'm rushing through life. So when I'm in a hurry and trying to catch something, whether it's real or virtual life, a salary, finances, luck, it doesn't matter what, just so I can speed up because I can't keep up, everything keeps slipping away from me. I have to run, or I have to run faster than the train, then our right side will increase. The fate of the thyroid gland. How does the brain give the command and the number of cells starts to increase? Why does the number of cells increase? Because more thyroid hormones need to be produced. And how exactly? More selenium and iodine? No. You need to have more cells, more stations that produce them. And of course, during this period, when you have more cells, you will have a greater need for selenium and iodine because more hormones need to be synthesized. What else will be very important here? That during this period, all your functions become more active. You sleep poorly, you have a huge amount of energy, you eat everything, but you keep losing weight, your eyes are bulging, you have tachycardia, your heart rate is high, your breathing rate is elevated, and so on. You have constant diarrhea. In other words, the function of your body and every organ is intensified. Everything is working in a very accelerated mode. But what is important here? When this process stops and when you come to a halt, your body no longer needs all that iodine, all those cells and selenium. It will need to be eliminated from the body. And how does this happen? A nodule forms in the thyroid gland. Certain types of microorganisms burn out, and they are supposed to remove these cells that have formed additionally. The body can easily identify these cells because they have 2 nuclei. And it is precisely the tuberculosis mycobacteria which live in your lungs that enter the thyroid gland through the bloodstream and remove them. That's how it used to be, until there wasn't. A vaccine against tuberculosis. Nowadays, this is practically impossible. That's why these cells remain in the thyroid gland forever in the form of a nodule. And what's important is that when this is an active process, when we're constantly trying to catch up, to chase, to live fast, then the nodule will be hot, the so-called hot nodule, and all the body's parameters will be elevated. But if we calm down, if we start living peacefully, then the nodule will become cold. But it will remain for life. That's if we want to catch something. If we really want to get rid of something and we are right-handed, then in this case, it will affect the left lobe of the thyroid gland. For example, to get rid of these toxic relationships, to leave this job as soon as possible. We want to get rid of these unpleasant situations that exist in our lives. The war, for it to end as soon as possible, I want to get rid of it as quickly as possible so that it doesn't affect me, to escape from these problems. Then the left lobe of the thyroid gland will enlarge. And the same processes will occur. If you simultaneously want to get rid of something and catch something else, for example, to get rid of problems and to catch a new life, then both your right side will change as well. The right lobe of the thyroid gland and the left one too. But all of this, as people say, are just stories. Where is the evidence? Now here you are in the image. A computed tomography scan of the brain. You see? The center of the thyroid gland. And you can see how the thyroid gland itself changes. It is enlarged. This shows that it is the brain that triggers cell division and either enhances or slows down the function of the thyroid gland. Not selenium and not iodine. It is specifically the brain when we are exposed. But let's look at a simple example. Here's a woman. This is a real example from my practice. She lives in Western Ukraine. I won't name the city. She works in the hotel and restaurant business at a very expensive, exclusive resort. And there she constantly has to keep up with everything because VIP clients are coming and going all the time. And she can't keep up. She's already drenched completely. She can't manage to live or do that job. And of course, her thyroid function becomes more active. It gradually grows and the woman starts to feel something, a lump in her throat. And her friend says, "Look, you seem to have some kind of bump here." She says, "Yes, really, I felt some small formation, a little lump here." She went to an endocrinologist, of course, because that's the specialist who deals with the thyroid gland. He looks only at the thyroid as if it's separate from the rest of the body. And this doctor, after running some tests, says, "People don't live with a thyroid like this. With a thyroid like this, people die." Do you have a huge amount? Hormones. Why did this woman have a huge amount of hormones? And it is in the right lobe of the thyroid gland was enlarged because it was in a hurry and did not have time. Not a deficiency of iodine, for example, or selenium or anything else. But then the woman got injured and couldn't go to work for a while. And then she left it all behind and moved to another country. She moved to another country with her child, and there she found that no one was in a hurry. For example, Italy or Spain. This woman moved to a more northern country, where, for instance, getting a bank card isn't like it is here, with private bank or monobank. You can't get it in a day or even in a few minutes. There, you have to wait 3 or 4 weeks. In other words, no one is in a hurry there. Life became more measured. And gradually, she started developing the following symptoms. She began to feel sluggish, she felt weak, she started sweating at night, and the lump in her throat got bigger. Why? Because her thyroid started to recover, the gland. And what's notable is that now the body no longer needs an excessive amount of these hormones. They need to be removed somehow. How does the body do this? It produces antibodies that remove the excess of these hormones. This process is called autoimmune thyroiditis. But again, our doctors start treating it. This is a thyroid problem. It needs to be dealt with urgently. So what should be done? What is the right thing to do to help our thyroid gland? Before we move on to specific recommendations, I want to remind all of you that our body is a complex system that includes the physical body with its tissues, organs, and systems, all controlled by the brain. And this brain has organs of perception. And only help based on this comprehensive approach allows a person to be healthy in the modern world. So now, what exactly should you do? If we understand that it's not the foods you eat, but rather the conditions you find yourself in that affect thyroid function, then when your thyroid function is increased and you have a hot nodule, the first thing you need to do is stop. This means changing your place of residence, for example, moving from the city to the countryside. If you have the opportunity, you can move to another country where life moves at a slower pace. You need to slow down. If, for example, you're running late for work, don't rush. But I'll get fired. If you keep living at such a fast pace, your thyroid will always be enlarged. Always. That's why you need to slow down. As soon as you slow down, as soon as you exhale, maybe start doing yoga or maybe some other practices that help. Focus on yourself and slow down your pace of life. That's when your thyroid function will start to decrease. And it's from this moment that you should do the following. First, you need to understand that the symptoms you experience from decreased thyroid function are not a disease attacking you, but a natural process. Before this, there was an increase in thyroid function. So we take this calmly. What do we take calmly? The fact that our blood pressure is low, that we feel sluggish, that we are drowsy, that we lack energy and get tired quickly. These are temporary moments. And it is during this period that the thyroid has slowed down its function. Not the thyroid itself, but the brain gave it this command. Of course, here we can help reduce all these physical symptoms. How? An endocrinologist will always recommend surgery here. But there is no need to have any surgery. You need to do the following. We can provide nutrition for the thyroid. What kind? 2 products. That's iodine and selenium, the one we mentioned to you earlier. How much should you take? So, we know that we need 150, at most 200 micrograms of iodine per day. Pregnant women need 250. As for selenium, you need between 50 and 100 micrograms. Where can you get it? What supplements should you take? And so on. You don't need to take anything. Everything is right at hand. It's in your food. Remember, food is medicine, not medicine is food. If we experience decreased thyroid function, we simply use regular iodized salt. And that's enough. If you don't have iodized salt, you can already consume it in Odessa, somewhere by the sea, or in another country where there is a sea. What can you consume? Fish. Fish also contains a lot of iodine. Meat, pork, veal, there's also a lot of iodine in them. So if you eat at least 100 grams of meat a day and add some salt to it, that's enough for you to get your daily iodine requirement. Now let's talk about selenium. And where is selenium found? Of course, people will tell you it's in Brazil nuts. And they contain almost 2,000 micrograms of selenium. But we only need 50 to 100. So where should we get this selenium? Ordinary seeds, sunflower, pumpkin. In 100 grams of sunflower and pumpkin seeds, you'll find the daily requirement of selenium. That is 100 micrograms. For example, flax seeds contain 200 micrograms. So you can, for instance, take 100 grams of flax seeds, grind them up, consume them, and you will fully meet your selenium needs, even if you don't eat anything else. But regular meat, like pork and beef, also contains selenium. In 100 grams of this substance, or rather this product, there are 50 micrograms of selenium. So if you consume it, you meet your daily requirement. That's how it is. That's why a regular diet provides protein in the form of fish, eggs, meat every day where there is salt. In cases of hypothyroidism, when the healing process is underway, this will meet your needs and support your thyroid gland. Follow these recommendations and stay healthy. This was Dr. Vasyl Chaika with you.